One thing I found out about God, and I don't mean this with any disrespect because I fear the Lord, but one thing I've noticed as I'm reading the Bible all the way through again, and I look into my own life, noticing how mysterious God is, that He can be very sneaky. And I believe He's constantly testing us now. With everything in our lives, we're being tested. Constantly being tested. Check it out. Very, very interesting stuff going on in the Bible. Alrighty, let's look at what happens to King Hezekiah here in 2 Chronicles chapter 32. It says right here in verse 30, Hezekiah prospered in all his works. Verse 31, howbeit in the business of the ambassadors of the princes of Babylon, when they came down to inquire of the wondrous works that were done in the land of Hezekiah, they came to question him and to ask him and talk to him about all the great works that King Hezekiah had done, these princes of Babylon. Look what God does. Verse 31, God left him to try him, to test him. Why? That he might know all that was in his heart. That he might know all that was in his heart. Would God do that? Have you ever felt like God left you, or you can't feel God's presence, or that you feel in a dry space, an empty wilderness, lonely, maybe a bit confused space in your life? Could be that God's testing us, right? Let's look at Deuteronomy now. Here in chapter 13, we're going to see another test that God does. Starting in verse 1, now if there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he gives you signs and wonders, and these signs and wonders come to pass, that means they have the power to actually do these wonders, and then whereof he spake unto you, saying, let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known, and let us serve after them. In other words, this person, this prophet or dreamer, can actually work signs and wonders, and after they work the signs and wonders, they start leading them astray to other gods. Now notice verse 3. Thou shalt not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is proving you. He's testing you. Why? To know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You mean to tell me God would allow prophets to rise up? Dreamers of dreams to rise up, predict our dreams, show great signs and wonders? You think God would allow that to happen? Is God really going to allow that to happen? Of course He is. He is, and He does. He will let them show signs and wonders. Why? To test us. To test us. To test us. Great men like Billy Graham, who did marvelous works of saving souls for decades, who slowly started drifting away into apostasy. Men have followed after him because he showed such great works. Now he's talking about a different Jesus. A Jesus that you don't even have to know his name and you could still get into heaven, according to the heresies of Billy Graham. Watch our study video on my other channel called Satanic Angels of Light, or just type that in the search engine of YouTube. Satanic Angels of Light. And watch the documentary about these great men that rise up, who later lead you astray. Even Jesus was tested. Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. Now Paul, writing to the Corinthians in 2 Corinthians chapter 8, talking about the churches of Macedonia, he says how that in great trials or testings of affliction, great testings of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded unto the riches of their liberality. their giving and their charity abounded even more. In the great trials of their afflictions, they were being tested by these afflictions, and they were still producing joy and riches of liberality. Over here, liberality is marked with generosity, giving or providing in a general sense. They were still giving. They were still generous. And I'm sure that's why they were being tested and tried, to see what they were going to do in their afflictions. Here in 1 Thessalonians chapter 3, Paul sent Timotheus to minister unto the saints that were there. He says right here, to establish you and to comfort you concerning your faith. Because there was a lot of suffering going on. Look what he says in verse 3. That no man should be moved by these afflictions. That's the same word for tribulation. For yourselves know perfectly well that we are appointed unto these things. Look at this again. For yourselves know that we are appointed thereunto. Verse 4. For verily, when we were with you, we told you before that we should suffer tribulations, even as it came to pass, and you know now. And you know now. Is that word tribulation the same as the word tribulation, thalipsis, to press together and afflict? That's what that word means. Now this word means thalipsis. This is the word used by Jesus that says we're going to go through great tribulations. Let's look that up. Yep, right over here on the right side, thalipsis. It means to crush, to press, to compress, to squeeze, to break, tribulation, trouble, affliction. He says that no man should be moved by these afflictions. For you yourself know that we're appointed thereunto. God is going to test us with these things, brothers and sisters. We are going to be tested with afflictions and troubles, and not only that, but even people working signs and wonders. People that are working signs and wonders and miracles. That's what I'm concerned about. Matthew 24, verse 11, and many false prophets shall arise and shall deceive many. Verse 5, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and shall deceive many. Revelation 13:2, and the dragon gave him his power and great authority. Verse 5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him for 42 months. Verse 13, and he does great wonders, and he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of those men. Back over to Matthew 24, it's going to get so bad, so many false Christs and prophets are going to rise up showing signs and wonders, verse 24, that if it was possible, even the very elect of God might be deceived. That's how bad it's going to be. If it was possible, even the very elect would be deceived. People can hold on to their faith with some physical afflictions. But what about when people come along and work miracles right before their eyes? Right before their eyes. And they're not grounded in the truth enough to know that there's not going to be an easy escape rapture, and they made some fake rapture with the Blue Beam Project, and now they got these miracle working people on the earth that are working signs and wonders, talking powerful words before their eyes. Calling fire down from heaven, Revelation 13. He had power to call fire down from heaven. The trial and the test that's coming upon those who are on the earth during the last generation is going to be so powerful that we have to be ready for this test that is coming. Let me show you. Take a look. Only the elect who love the word of God will not be deceived. Revelation 3:10 tells us, because you have kept the word of my patience, I'll keep you from the hour of temptation. This is not tribulation. People think, oh, see, we're going to escape the tribulation. Look at this verse. They use Revelation 3:10 to say we're going to escape tribulation. This says temptation. Completely different word. Over here on the right side, this is tribulation. See this? That's thalipsis. That literally means tribulation. Look at this. Let's look up this word temptation for a second. Greek 3986. Let's see what it means. It's a test. a trial, temptation, putting to the test. You see that over here on the right side? Putting to the test. Something is coming on the earth that's going to test those, look, which shall come upon the whole world to try them. Look at that. To try them that dwell upon the earth. It's talking about the last generation. Those left on the earth are going to be tested. There's going to be a lot of people losing their faith in the last generation because of the great temptation and strong delusion, the falling away of the faith, the infection of the Bible with all these counterfeit Bibles that are out there. Most every famous TV preacher and evangelist has fallen from the true faith. Miracle working signs and wonders and healers are coming up, slowly teaching false gospels. People have gotten lukewarm. Doctrines of devils and demons teaching that it's okay to continue to sin. But there is also going to be those, because they're being pressed and squeezed and crushed by the temptations and trials and tribulations, that they are going to dip their robes in the blood of Jesus and be converted because of the enormous pressure that's coming. Revelation 7, starting in verse 9, and behold, a low and great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations, and kindreds and people and tongues. They stood before the throne and before the Lamb. They were clothed in white robes and held palms in their hands. They were worshiping the God, saying, salvation to our God, which sits on the throne of the Lamb. This is a sight that John saw in heaven. We'll go down to verse 13. And one of the elders answered me, saying, who are these people arrayed in white robes, and where did they come from? So John is sitting there witnessing this, and somebody comes over to him and says, do you know who these people are standing before the throne in these white robes, and where did they come from? And I said, sir, John says, sir, I don't know. He says, you know. And he said unto John, these are they which came out of the great tribulation, the thlipsis, the pressure, the squeezing, the troubles, the crushing. These are the people that came out of the great tribulation and have washed their robes. They made them white in the blood of the Lamb. They gave their lives to Jesus because of the great pressure that was put on them. They will be before the throne of God day and night, and in his temple they will dwell with him. Verse 16 gives us a clue how they're going to die. They shall hunger no more. They shall thirst no more, and neither shall the sun light on them or any heat no more. That means that's what's happened to them on earth. They were hungry, they were thirsty, the sun was on them, and that's how they died. They ran from the Antichrist, they hid in the woods, they didn't have enough supplies, and they died from the elements. But during that process, they refused to give their lives over to the Antichrist. They refused to take the mark of the beast, and they died from starvation and thirst. They died, they watched their kids die, and they just withered away and died in their faith because they finally converted their faith. Their hearts were finally converted over to the Son of God, and they gave their lives up rather than taking the mark of the beast. They died for their faith, and that is why their robes were dipped in the blood of the Lamb. Many that are following Christ today with the comforts of this Western civilization are going to fall away from the faith because they are lukewarm and they do not really believe, follow, committed, dedicated to lay their lives down for Jesus. And many of the ones that are saying no to God right now, who are doing their own thing, when the time closes in, when it gets closer and closer, they're going to wake up. They're going to realize the preciousness of life and the only hope we have through the narrow gate of Jesus and his blood. And they're going to finally surrender and give their souls over to the Lamb. Brothers and sisters, I'm warning you now. The tests are going to get greater and the troubles are going to get stronger. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you sure you're ready?